I want you to know that there is power in the consistency. When your words and actions align, we reinforce the values we want to instill. Children feel secure in understanding right from wrong, and they develop a strong moral foundation that lasts a lifetime when they see consistency in what is being instructed to them, what is required of them, and what is being modeled and demonstrated before them. Hi there. Thank you for listening to They Come With Instructions podcast, where we share biblical principles for real life matters. I am Renee Anderson. I am a mother, I'm a motivator, and I am a friend. I'm also the author of the book entitled with the same name, They Come With Instructions, Biblical Principles for Raising Children. Thank you for joining us. I am so excited that you are here and we have another opportunity to talk about a conversation that we all need to be mindful of, and it is to be the example. Be the example. And this applies for parenting children of any age, from toddlers to adults. I actually saw a video recently on social media, and it was a cute family-oriented video where this dad is laying on the floor and he's, just playing with his child, and they're kind of facing each other, laying on the floor. So dad's face is here and the baby's face is here. And so the child was crawling, couldn't even walk yet, but he would put his hands on the dad's cheeks and kept trying to kiss him. And so after a few attempts, the dad looks over at the mom, who I presume was recording this moment, says, "Oh, babe, he's trying to kiss me like we do." So apparently, the dad or the mom holds cheeks and kiss each other, several times throughout the day. And I thought, what a sentiment and a beautiful thing for this child to actually witness. And it reminded me that our children absorb what they observe. Our children absorb, like sponges, what they see. They mimic us from the earliest ages, even infancy. So be mindful, parents, right? Because even without intentionally preparing a lesson, we are teaching them. We're teaching them. Their little eyes will follow us. When we sit them in their little cribs or sit them in their little chairs, their little eyes will follow us. And we see them mimic us, right? And they're observing us. We can see, again, on social media and maybe even in real life, we see little people, 2 years old, can't even really speak, but they're, kind of having this narrative in an argumentative tone with another adult. And we laugh at it, but that child has picked that up or seen it somewhere, right? Rolling their little neck, good or bad behavior. They even sometimes, if we're not careful, we'll hear them say foul language, right? Because those are the things that they have heard. So once they learn how to talk, we have to really be careful as parents, right? I remember a story long time ago, because my little cousin is now an adult. But I remember hearing a story when she was about 3 years old, maybe 2 or 3, and she went to the church and she tapped one of the sisters on the leg and said, "My mama calls you fat," right? And and it was true because they had called her Sister Fat so and so, whatever her name was, And there's this little child repeating what they heard. And what a lesson to learn. We have to be careful. I've heard it said that children learn more from what we do than what we actually say. But we have to be mindful because long gone are the days of do what I say, not what I do, right? So we have to demonstrate behavior that we are comfortable with our children following. The Bible tells us to teach by precept, which is guidelines, rules, instructions, and example. So we are to teach by precept and example. Example is illustration, a sample, a demonstration, but be mindful that the two go together. So we can't teach by precept alone, right? But the lessons are gained from precept and example. Let the words align with the actions. Let the actions align with the words. They go together. So your lifestyle should not be a contradiction to the message that you teach and or preach, right? So that means it's our responsibility to consider our behavior. Consider our behavior. Consider our lifestyles. Consider our conduct. Consider our routines, right? I'm not trying to set an expectation that we have to be perfect, right? Because we know that we cannot be perfect, but to be mindful. Because not only are our children always watching and looking, but God up above is always watching. People are watching us. It's important to be mindful in your home, right? Other members of your home, family members, on your job, in your community, and in the church. We have an obligation, we have a duty, we have a responsibility to live the life you talk about, especially as Christians, right? And especially in our homes, because those are the ones who have been assigned to us. Those are the ones who are directly entrusted in our care. As parents, we are the first and most influential teachers in our children's lives. As parents, we are the first and most influential teachers in our children's lives. And so when we set expectations for behavior, values, and discipline, our children watch closely to see if we live by those same principles. I have learned of children who, when they get older and they turn from this sweet, adorable, tender, loving, innocent child into an angry, rebellious, bad attitude and somewhat unhappy child. Because, right, when I talk with them, their words are, my mama's fake. Right? That's why I don't want to listen to her. She's a hypocrite. What a sense of accountability is required when our children have that attitude and make those types of statements. So we have to be mindful because there are consequences of the contradiction. There are consequences to living a life and letting your actions being different from what your words are, right? So if our actions contradicts the lesson we try to teach, or if we preach honesty but cut corners, or we demand kindness but we respond with harshness, our words lose their power. Children become confused and may even disregard guidance that seems inconsistent with their reality. So we, the parents, need to examine what is going on in our personal lives and be mindful of how we present ourselves to the world versus how we present ourselves to our family. Whatever rules we apply or establish as expectations for our children, then our demonstration of that means it's more than a rule. It's a lifestyle. I've heard a quote that I can't wait to get back and use on my job because, or even in my church, as we're talking about a spirit of excellence, right? Because excellence is not an act, it's a habit. And so are our words, the words that we speak, the words that we teach, the words that we tout. It has to be a lifestyle. And it's challenging when our children call us on our behavior. Nobody likes to be called out, especially by our children. But see that as a good thing, right? Because if you've raised them right, if they are a person who is observant and who has the ability to analyze, right, and see the difference and has the courage to speak about the difference, then that's something that you can, take to your credit. You've got an observant young person who is intellectual enough to notice the contrast, right? And so when we exemplify appropriate, ethical, and successful lifestyles, our children witness that and they benefit from it. They benefit from it. In teaching them the scripture, again, the underlying fundamental scripture for they come with instructions is Proverbs, right? Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And training involves the demonstration of what it is that this person needs to do, modeling it. Think about coaching. Think about an instrument. Think about anything that requires, right, rehearsal and practice. It first has to be demonstrated. I took music lessons for several years, and anytime we went on to a different sheet of music or we were about to learn a different piece of music, that music teacher would play it so that I could hear the timing, so that I could hear the syncopation, so that I could recognize what it's to sound like once I've learned it and developed it. And so practicing and modeling it is necessary as we are to be the examples. One of my sons, of course, right, called me out about a behavior because I would be all smiles and happy out with people in the streets or at church or on my job. But then in the home, I was always tired or grumpy and barely wanted to speak. Ouch, right? But if truth be told, and it always should be, I had to get over myself and I had to filter through the shock, somewhat embarrassment, right, of being called out. And I had to filter through to see and find if there was any truth in what he was saying. And sure enough, it was true. It was true. And what my son said to me is that, it's like I'm nicer to the people outside of our home than I was being to the people inside my home. And I wasn't trying to be fake, right? But sometimes in our jobs, in our careers, when we're at the church, I call it, you have to be on, right? You have to be personable. You have to be engaging. My career requires it. But at home, I want to come and I just want to chill and I want to relax and I want to, I'm tired and I'm comfortable, right? And I wouldn't necessarily feel like talking because I do a lot of talking. I wouldn't even smile sometimes when I greeted them. I didn't even have the excitement in my voice when I spoke to them. And after he called me on it, there was nothing left for me to do but change. Get over my hurt feelings, right? Get over the ouch of being called out. And I had to do some changing, some adjusting, and some modifying. Because as much as it is important for me to be engaging and on, right, out in the public and before people, I want the people in my home, those people that I love most, who are most precious to me, I don't want them to feel slighted or neglected or unwanted because I'm not willing to put forth the extra energy, the extra effort, the extra attention, right, to make sure that they know and are secure in my feelings and my love toward them. So be the example. I encourage us to be the example, live the example, model the behavior that we want from our children. Even outside our homes, right? The scripture speaks about us being epistles, known and read of all men. So I ask, what message are you sending? What message are you conveying to the world? You say you're a Christian, but does your behavior line up with that message? Right? What message are you sending as epistles read among, known and read of all men? Is it pretentious? Is it a message of contradiction? Is it a message of falsity? Listen, we the church, we get a bad name, we get a bad rep because the world thinks and believes that everybody in the church is fake. Everybody in the church, ain't nobody in the church right. Well, we know that's not true, but we also have to take ownership of our behavior that contributes to that narrative, right? Does my lifestyle align with the message that I'm a Christian? Something to think about. Are you a person who speaks about loving people and being willing to help others, but then mumble under your breath about how you can't stand people? Right? People see that. People hear that. Or does your life align with your message? I want you to know that there is power in the consistency. When your words and actions align, we reinforce the values we want to instill. When our words and actions align, we reinforce the message, right, that we are Christians, that there has been a great change in me. I'm not the Renee that I used to be 30 years ago. I'm not the Renee I used to be 5 years ago. Children feel secure in understanding right from wrong, and they develop a strong moral foundation that lasts a lifetime when they see consistency in what is being instructed to them, what is required of them, and what is being modeled and demonstrated before them. Listen, they come with instructions. Let's make sure we follow them too. Be the example. Thank you again for viewing. I pray that something has been said to inspire you and encourage you. Please subscribe, like, follow, and share. And if you have enjoyed this time, please feel free to let someone know what's going on at They Come With Instructions, the podcast. Feel free to email me, leave topics, leave questions, things you want us to discuss from a biblical perspective. If it's in the Bible, let's talk about it. God bless you. Love and blessings.